Welcome back everyone to another video. It's your boy Cookie Croc, and today we're back with RimWorld's episode 2. In the last episode we had just started off our colony. We met our two colonists, Greg and Oddy, as well as their late great-grandmother. That wasn't a grandma at all. Oddy appeared to have a lot of different cuts and bruises on him, but luckily none of these seemed too fatal, so he should be able to heal up pretty soon. In the meantime, the two were doing alright. They were able to manage the wildlife. I would break out and try and attack them every now and then. And I had also figured out the manual priorities, so I can take things from 1 being the highest to 4 being the lowest, and with this I can basically select certain things to be a higher priority than other things. And after that we had some visitors visit the colony finally. This visitor was a trader, and luckily we do have quite a bit of different material to get rid of, so I ended up selling him a shit ton of cloth, as well as just a few other items that I wanted to get rid of at the base. With that, we're able to make quite a bit of decent money, and I'm starting to figure out more about the game, so I know that I'm going to want to expand my storage stockpile here, as it is already almost full. The next day, we had a random fire start in one of the houses, because of the electrical outlets and the fact that the houses are made out of wood, but we were able to get it out before it would even be able to spread, so that was very good. Also, I figured we have way too much food going. We really don't need all this type of food that we have here, and I decided to switch out the corn over to smoke leaf. This is basically the weed of this game, so you know I'm going to be wanting to grow this. Followed by some psychoid plant. Some kind of psychic plant or something that will get people fucked up for sure. With these two things, we should be able to make some profit by selling them to traders. And then in the new room we constructed at the end of last episode, I decided to put in a poker table in there. This way we have one more thing to do for recreation, and our colonists will be a lot less likely to be having mental breakdowns because they're bored and stuff. So far we were honestly doing pretty good. Our cooler was full of different types of food as well as our normal storage, and we had even received a quest. This one was a 1-star quest, and it turns out there's $885 worth of valuable items not too far from Greg's Sanctuary. So I decided, okay, I'd check out where this spot was, and it turned out it wasn't too far on the map. So I decided this would be our first caravan run. I never did one of these before, but it's not too hard to do. You just select the characters and the items you want to take for the caravan, and with that, right click the spot you want them to go to. They would gather up the food and different stuff and then head out on their way. I sent both of them because I figured I didn't want just one going alone, as it did say there would probably be hostiles there. It takes a couple days to get there. The caravan will rest in between, we'll try and pick berries if they find any, and different stuff like that. But once they finally were able to arrive there, I could go in and take a look at the map. Now looking at it, it's not too big, but there is quite a bit of different stuff here. Even if we didn't just want to get the valuable resources, we could get different stuff like steel or stuff that's in the walls. But I sent the two over to the house that was there, and it was of course being guarded by a bandit. She wasn't armed with a firearm though, only a melee weapon, so she would have to try and approach the two before being able to attack them. And with them being able to shoot her down first, they managed to make it into the house and start collecting all the goods one by one. This basically meant everything went really well. We had about $800 more to add to our stockpile, so we could sell that to some different traders, as well as we still had enough food to make it back home. It was looking pretty good, so I got the caravan to reband and then head back over to Greg's Sanctuary in attempts to get back home. Now about 1/3 there, almost near the road, the group ended up getting attacked by a group of monkeys. There's 2 different monkeys that were trying to fight them, and they got really close, and we had to melee attack them to death, but luckily the monkeys didn't do any severe damage to them, not like the chinchilla, so luckily the two would just walk away with a couple of bruises and scratches, nothing too much that we couldn't sleep off. Infection is something to worry about in this game, and seeing as we had no medkits, I was pretty worried, and it wouldn't have been good if we got infected. But right before the group was at home, just 1 tile away, we ended up receiving a raid from a bandit. It was just one lone bandit running in immediately to attack the outpost. Now firstly, he went up into one of the bedrooms and he started to set a fire and just start to break stuff. There's no one at Greg's Sanctuary as the two were still on their way back, so all I could really do was just watch this guy spread fire to all the different parts of my base. The two were very close though, so they were able to make it back in time before he started to spread fire to the upper part of the base. And I sent the two down there to go and attack him. Now immediately they would start shooting him and melee attacking him, and once he was down, I set them to go immediately try and extinguish a fire. A fire had taken out all of our food supply in the cooler. It burnt all of it, as well as getting rid of most of our coolers, our wind turbine, and a lot of other stuff. We didn't even have beds to sleep in. We had to sleep in the prisoner rooms for the night. I tried to keep that guy as a prisoner too, but because it was missing a door in the prisoner room, he was just trying to escape, and I honestly didn't want to try and feed this guy and heal him up. Fuck this man. He fucked up the base big time, and it's going to be hard to bounce back from this. That's when right after we got another quest. What a coincidence. It was the same type of quest essentially, just another look for valuables, but we're not doing that one, seeing as we just got back in time from the last one. And this one was a lot farther than the other one. There's no fucking way in hell we wouldn't be attacked by, I don't know, some bandits or fucking goddamn tree bungalow or some shit. Like, this place is mad, so we gotta stay and protect the base. With our coolers being destroyed as well, the only food we did have left was starting to rot away in the cooler. And even though a ship chunk landed nearby, there wasn't too much on the bright scale. We were pretty low on food, we basically had none, and as well as no med kits or anything to really go off of. We were in a lot of danger and we were starting to face starvation. But on the bright side, we had tamed an alpaca, so we had a new friend, I guess, to replace the cat we had lost in that last episode. We'll keep the alpaca, as well as I'm trying to mine out this area just due to the fact that our storage that we built from the last episode is already almost full. So I'm going to want to have a lot more things and be able to store all these things, so expanding the storage area is the first priority. Nextly, we had a trader arrived, and this was a big group of them. They had a lot of different firearms and stuff like that on them, but I decided to sell them just a few of the different rubble and things like that we had, as well as sell them all the goods that we had gotten from the exploration run. This gave us 571 silver, which is really nice. We'll maybe even be able to buy a human being with that. Nextly, I wanted a stone cutting table, as we can turn a lot of the different things we find from mining into resources to build walls and such. But with no breaks, Oddy started to have advanced starvation. This caused him to start wandering around, and within literally a few seconds, he passed out on the ground because he had no food in his stomach. He was starving. This caused Greg to also start to have kind of a mental breakdown, as he had to try and rescue his brother, the only person that he knows left on his planet. And with the potatoes at 98% grown, it was just a complete cock block. Greg would just pass out on the floor, and with all hopes lost. This game is not Kenshi though, and a mysterious man in black has arrived. Will he be able to set things right in these parts? When inspecting this out, it turned out a man by the name of Weston had joined our group as a colonist, and he was on his way with a simple meal to feed it to Greg and Oddy. I do have to say I like this. The one colonist we had died, and it's been really hard to deal with just two colonists. As well as I didn't pick over a fuckover difficulty, I picked a medium. So hopefully this will be the second chance that we needed. With that, we could continue to grow and prosper. The group was getting back to work as they were all fine again, and a lot of the crops were coming in now. We do have a lot of different rat carcasses and stuff like that in our freezer, so I'm not sure how to really get rid of those. I tried to untick the corpses, but if it didn't bring them out, we can't get any meat off of fucking bones. So I'm trying to deal with that, as well as we have very little steel. We have to replace a lot of the things like coolers and a wind turbine with steel, so I could find a little bit in the mine, but not too much around really. I decided to look at Weston's bio, and it turned out that he's -40 with Greg Kane, just due to the fact that Greg is fucking ugly, so he's now Weston's rival, I guess. But on the bright side, Greg's pretty fond of Weston, seeing as Weston saved his life, and Weston isn't ugly. He doesn't judge him. Also from the chat log, Oddy and Greg were talking about heal root. This is a type of plant that I actually decided to set up next. This way that we'll be able to get some really low tier sort of medkits. But when trying to retrieve the steel that was in that one cave, Oddy ended up getting chased by a mega spider. It chased him around a little bit, but then go back to his nest, so I had Oddy break out the wall up it there just so he can get in and out easily. I know we're gonna have to deal with those things soon. But other than that, the group were doing pretty well together. They were able to slay all the wildlife without getting hurt, as well as make progress on mining, construction, and everything that needed to be done at the base. Mining into this wall, I'm going to be putting a lot more structures here, and you can also see it gets our mining skill up quite a bit, at least for Greg because he's passionate about it. But after that, we had received a new quest. This one was another 1-star quest called Saving Termite. Termite is a 59-year-old and she needs help somewhere. And it turns out if we help her that she'll actually join our group. When looking at where exactly she was only a few tiles away, maybe 7 or 8. It was through the mountains, but I did decide we should go get her. I got Greg and Oddy, and then the little bit of food that we had. We only had a couple days worth at this point because we had not prepared that many meals yet. But either way, I figured the group would be alright with foraging berries and other things as such. And Oddy and Greg would go to try and save the girl Termite. Meanwhile, Westing would be able to maintain and watch over the base and make sure no other bandits came by and lit the whole place afire. I'm also finding out now that there's things like steel and components in the walls things like machinery you can mine, as well as just different steel nodes. There's lots of different things I need to actually mine. The base rock just gets you slate, but components and steel can be used to make a lot of useful things. But with that, everything was looking pretty nice at the base, honestly, and I felt safe enough with Weston there. Now, after a couple of days, Greg and Oddy had arrived at Termite, and they found her just in the middle of the water near a lake. I don't know how she didn't drown. She was lying down, so it must have been a very shallow lake. But walking over, they immediately encountered just one bandit that was in the water. Because she would have to travel across the water, she'd be a little bit slowed down. They managed to hit the first 2 shots too, but then after that just fucking blew it until she got onto land. But the 2 would succeed in taking down the 1 bandit, and Greg would go to rescue Termite, and with that, Termite would join the group right away. We didn't really have to heal her or anything. We could have, but I decided not to because we didn't bring any meds. Shut the fuck up, okay? But either way, we get out of there with Termite, a new colonist. Now she is injured, so we'll have to carry her, and it's gonna slow down the group quite a bit. And we only had half a day of food left, and this was definitely not good. This is when I decided it'd be best to probably split the caravan into 2. I decided Greg would be going solo back to Greg's sanctuary because he could travel faster just on his own. Meanwhile, Oddy would take care of Termite and try and manage her. They would be able to forage some berries along the way, so they wouldn't be completely fucked. So after a day and a half, Greg was able to make it back to the base. But instead of sending him back out, I said I would send Weston out instead, just with a bunch of food. That way he could go out and help them, meanwhile Greg would attend to the base this time. They honestly weren't too far, so it wouldn't take too long to link both caravans. And even though they would run into a few troubles like getting poisoned from the berries and stuff, they did manage to survive it. We also had a caravan stop by too, so I sold him a bunch more of the junk that we had gotten from different bandits and such, as well as one of the dusters that we had made, because those sell for quite a bit, so tailoring is pretty good early game. And right as I was looking at Termite, she got better and she started walking, which meant the group would both be traveling at a much faster speed with Oddy not having to carry her. After just about a day, Weston and the other 2 linked back up, and then they would go back to Greg's sanctuary together with a bunch of food. Meanwhile, I had Greg mine out more of a wall because even though we expanded the stockpile in this episode, we're gonna have to do it again. But shortly after this is when I noticed Greg just ate a raw fucking monkey. And instead of cooking it, he got poisoned from it, of course, so he was not feeling well. Even though the group made it back and they were all doing pretty well, to be honest. Oddy felt like celebrating, so he started a party over in the rec room where everybody eats, and Greg would try his best to make it to the party, but on the way there he'd have to stop a few times just to throw up on the middle of a road. Nothing stops Greg from having a fucking good time though. He'd be on his deathbed and he'll be hitting a bong. He doesn't give a fuck. And after the party, Greg would make it back to his bed after wandering around for a little bit. He was pretty sick, but I mean, what the fuck do you expect from eating raw monkey? That's kind of like how the fucking virus started. Greg just isn't that smart of a guy, to be honest. We also had a not smart guy of a bandit rush us, but he went in through the cave, so we got fucked up by like mega spiders or something. So I had Termite go and grab his weapon and his gear. I know that your characters do get a negative buff to their mental state if they're wearing dead man's clothing, but it's a lot better than just being unclothed. On top of that, I had found a steel deposit right next to all of our farms. Right here, we could mine this area out and obtain a lot of different steel from it, so we'd be able to craft all the things we haven't been able to craft for the past few weeks. This was really nice, of course, and our base was already looking pretty nice, but I wanted to optimize things quite a bit. Firstly, I'm learning why you don't build out of wood, because fires start basically every other week. They do manage to take care of it though and get it under control, so as long as it doesn't get too out of control, it's fine. I also expanded the storage room by just basically half of what it already was. This way we'll be able to put in a lot more things here, and I really don't want to run out of room for storing stuff. You know, the more goods we have, the better, as we can sell stuff and trade. Now, the wind turbine, we had run into numerous problems this episode. I haven't highlighted it, but I fucked with it like 6 or 7 times because plants keep on growing there and trees. Now that we have abundance of steel, I decided to put in a bunch of paved tiles. These will basically act like sidewalks, sort of, and I believe they'll stop plants from growing, like plants just can't grow on fucking concrete. So I set that up all along all the roads of my base. Just that way we can also travel a lot more efficient this way, I think. We do get slowed down by things like trees and plants, so. And lastly, we had a group of pigs join. They seem to be already established with humans before, so they just joined our group right away, 3 different pigs. I don't know if I'll slaughter one or try and breed them or what I'm gonna try and do with them, but I mean, that's a pretty good way to end off the episode. If you guys liked this episode of the RimWorld Let's Struggle, make sure you leave a like and a comment down below. Subscribe to the channel for some more content, and consider checking out my Patreon to support the channel even more. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.